weight of being too much. Why do some of us always feel too much, too sensitive, too reactive, too painfully aware of every nuance in the world around us? It's a question that has haunted minds for centuries, whispered quietly in the margins of history, and written in the trembling hands of those who could not contain the storm of their own emotions. Feeling too much is often framed as a flaw, a burden, a weakness to be corrected. But what if it is something entirely different? What if it is a window, one that opens onto a deeper, more intense awareness of existence itself? Imagine a world where every sound, every glance, every subtle shift in mood is magnified. Ordinary moments become overwhelming. Ordinary feelings become unbearable. The laughter of friends might sting. A kind word might carry the weight of expectation, and silence feels heavier than thunder. This is the life of someone who feels too much, a constant tension between being alive and being crushed by the very life that sustains them. It is not a failure of strength. It is, in many ways, an extraordinary sensitivity to the invisible currents that move through the world. History remembers such people in paradoxical ways. Prophets, shamans, and mystics were revered for their insight, yet feared for the intensity they carried. Artists, poets, and thinkers who could feel the entire spectrum of human experience were celebrated in their work, but often punished in their lives. From the ancient soothsayers whose visions unsettled kings, to the misunderstood geniuses who bore the weight of their own consciousness. Sensitivity has always been both a gift and a danger. Civilization, it seems, has never quite known what to do with those who feel too much. And this raises a troubling question. Is this intensity truly a personal flaw? Or is it society that has failed to recognize the value of profound awareness? When the world rewards detachment, conformity, and emotional moderation, those who feel deeply become anomalies, misread as fragile or flawed. Yet beneath the surface, there is a hidden clarity, a heightened perception of reality that most cannot see. As we begin this journey, it becomes clear that feeling too much is not merely an internal struggle. It is a collision between human consciousness and a world structured for uniformity. It is a tension between authenticity and social expectation, between insight and invisibility. And as we explore further, the story will reveal that this is more than just a psychological phenomenon. It is a reflection of how society has learned to interpret, manipulate, and often suppress the depth of human feeling itself. A historical perspective on sensitivity. Throughout history, sensitivity has been a double-edged sword, revered in one era, punished in another. Those who felt deeply, who observed the world with acute awareness, often walked a precarious line between honor and ostracization. Ancient societies sometimes viewed such individuals as prophets or seers, intermediaries between the mundane and the divine. Their visions, their heightened awareness of the unseen were considered gifts, treasures to guide communities through uncertainty, fear, and change. Yet this same sensitivity, if misunderstood, could also provoke suspicion, fear, and persecution. In ancient Greece, the poets and philosophers were celebrated for their insights into human nature. They saw patterns invisible to others, articulated truths that society preferred to ignore, and felt the weight of collective suffering as if it were their own. Yet even here, sensitivity carried a cost. Those who diverged too far from societal expectations, whose thoughts were too sharp, too penetrating, too aware, risked exile, ridicule, or worse, The story repeats across civilizations. Seers in Mesopotamia, mystics in India, shamans across indigenous cultures, each was both treasured and feared, a paradox that continues to resonate today. Fast forward to the Renaissance, and the pattern persists. Artists and thinkers who sensed more, who felt the depths of human experience with unflinching clarity, were often misunderstood. Their sensitivity exposed society's contradictions, beauty intertwined with cruelty, morality entangled with corruption. Their emotions became a lens through which they discerned the hidden structures of power, influence, and human behavior. Yet society demanded conformity, a moderation of feeling that could dilute the power of their insight. Many suffered quietly, bearing the invisible weight of their heightened perception, while the world lauded only the outcomes of their brilliance, not the price they paid for seeing so much. Even in modern times, the narrative continues. Highly sensitive individuals, whether in the arts, sciences, or social movements, are often mischaracterized as fragile, overreactive, or unstable. Their emotional depth is a mirror reflecting society's discomfort with intensity, a challenge to the carefully constructed narrative of normalcy. To feel too much in a world built for distraction and superficiality is to exist in a state of constant tension, a friction between one's inner truth and society's expectations. History teaches us that feeling too much is not a random personal flaw. It is a recurring human phenomenon, a sign of perceptual acuity that society repeatedly fails to understand or accommodate. Those who experience this depth of feeling are part of a lineage stretching across millennia, a lineage of thinkers, visionaries, and observers whose insights, if ignored, leave society blind to itself. As we examine these historical patterns, a crucial question emerges. Are sensitive individuals truly at fault for their intensity, or is society fundamentally ill-equipped to handle the very awareness that makes human consciousness profound? In tracing this thread through time, we begin to see that feeling too much is not just a personal experience. It is an ongoing dialogue between human depth and the collective structures that seek to contain it. The psychology behind feeling too much, beneath the historical and cultural layers, lies the intricate architecture of the human mind, a complex network where emotion, perception, and cognition converge. To understand why some people feel too much, we must examine the inner workings of consciousness itself. Psychology offers a window into this experience, revealing that heightened sensitivity is not an anomaly, but a distinct way of processing the world. Researchers identify this trait in what they call highly sensitive persons, or HSPs, a group of individuals whose nervous systems register stimuli with extraordinary intensity. For them, the subtle nuances of light, sound, and social interaction are not mere background noise. They are vivid, piercing, and often overwhelming. This heightened sensitivity extends far beyond sensory perception. It shapes thought patterns, decision-making, and emotional resonance. Small slights can sting like profound betrayals. Moments of beauty can evoke near religious awe. Yet it is not only the external world that overwhelms, it is the internal one. Thoughts, memories, and imagined possibilities swirl with relentless intensity. These individuals experience both the richness of life and its weight simultaneously, inhabiting a space where empathy and awareness are heightened to almost painful degrees. The roots of this intensity are both biological and psychological. Neuroimaging studies show that highly sensitive brains exhibit greater activity in areas responsible for empathy, emotional regulation, and attention to detail. Early life experiences, particularly trauma or overstimulation, can amplify these tendencies, creating a hyper-alert nervous system that perceives danger, deception, or subtle social cues long before others notice them. This is why some who feel too much report exhaustion, anxiety, or a constant sense of being overwhelmed. They are perceiving layers of reality that others cannot even see. Yet sensitivity is not merely a source of suffering. It is a profound evolutionary adaptation. In prehistoric communities, those attuned to subtle cues of emotion, threat, or opportunity were invaluable. They could detect danger before it arrived, nurture others with extraordinary care, and navigate the complexities of human interaction with intuition and precision. In the modern world, however, these gifts often clash with social structures that prize detachment, efficiency, and emotional moderation. The mismatch between natural sensitivity and societal expectations creates a recurring tension. To feel too much is to exist on the edge of societal comprehension. Existential psychology offers a complementary perspective. Highly sensitive individuals are acutely aware of the fragility of life, the hidden dynamics of power, and the pervasive illusions within society. This acute awareness can manifest as profound insight, critical thinking, or moral clarity, but it also makes them vulnerable to despair, disillusionment, and the sense that the world is fundamentally at odds with their perception of truth. Feeling too much in this sense is not a personal flaw. It is a cognitive and emotional alignment with a deeper reality that most people are trained to ignore or suppress. Ultimately, understanding the psychology behind heightened sensitivity reframes the narrative. Those who feel too much are not broken, fragile, or defective. They are wired differently, attuned to dimensions of human experience that society rarely honors. Their struggle is not a symptom of weakness. It is the inevitable friction between a mind designed for depth and a world structured for shallow comfort. The journey of understanding, then, is not to correct this intensity, but to navigate it, embrace it, and recognize its hidden power. Society's machinery and emotional suppression. Beyond the individual, the story of feeling too much is inseparable from the structures of society itself. From the earliest civilizations to the digital age, human societies have developed intricate systems that favor conformity, emotional moderation, and predictability. Those who experience the world with heightened sensitivity inevitably come into conflict with these structures, encountering resistance, misunderstanding, and sometimes outright hostility. To feel too much is to challenge the very machinery of social order, even when no conscious rebellion is intended. Consider the subtle ways in which society molds emotional perception. From childhood, individuals are taught to manage, suppress, or redirect intense feelings. Don't be so sensitive, parents say, or stop overthinking. Schools reward compliance over curiosity, standardized thinking over nuanced observation. Careers demand efficiency, emotional detachment, and the ability to operate within predefined systems. In this framework, sensitivity is seen as a liability. Those who feel deeply are often labeled as overreactive, fragile, or irrational, not because there is something wrong with them, but because their perception of reality does not align with the world's carefully engineered expectations. Media and culture further reinforce this suppression. Television, advertising, and social platforms normalize a simplified version of life, fast-moving, emotionally palatable, and devoid of the complexities that sensitive individuals cannot ignore. Emotional depth, moral ambiguity, and ethical contradictions are flattened into digestible narratives. Those attuned to nuance notice the gaps, the manipulation, and the subtle coercion. Feeling too much in a society designed to flatten emotion creates cognitive dissonance. The world feels both vibrant and hostile, beautiful yet manipulative, authentic yet performative. Historically, this machinery has always served a purpose. Political powers, religious institutions, and social elites have long relied on a populace that prioritizes routine over awareness, conformity over insight. Sensitivity threatens this equilibrium because those who perceive deeply are capable of seeing cracks in authority, hypocrisies in moral codes, and manipulation in the messages that shape collective belief. In many ways, feeling too much is a natural rebellion against engineered complacency, a quiet, perceptive resistance that rarely attracts recognition but quietly disrupts the narrative of control. Modern society amplifies this suppression exponentially. Social media algorithms reward performative detachment, shaping behavior through likes, retweets, and superficial approval. Work cultures celebrate stoicism, while constant connectivity and information overload exhaust those who cannot compartmentalize their emotions. Cultural norms valorize emotional moderation as wisdom, when in fact it is often a tool for conformity, ensuring that intensity, perception, awareness, sensitivity remains marginalized. Those who feel too much are left navigating a world that subtly demands they mute themselves, even as their consciousness registers the world's contradictions in painful clarity. Yet this tension between society and sensitivity is not inherently negative. It illuminates a hidden truth. Feeling too much is not a defect, but a form of insight. It allows individuals to detect manipulation, question authority, and perceive subtle patterns that others cannot. Those who experience the world in this way hold a mirror to the systems that shape our reality, revealing not only their structures, but also their vulnerabilities. Sensitivity becomes a lens through which the machinery of society is exposed, a tool for critical thought and a quiet assertion of truth in the face of engineered distraction. By understanding society's role in suppressing emotional depth, the highly sensitive begin to see their own experience differently. They are not flawed, they are awake. Their struggle is not a personal failure, but the natural friction between a mind designed for awareness and a world designed for compliance. Feeling too much is not a curse. It is the signal of a consciousness capable of perceiving the mechanisms that most ignore, and ultimately it is the first step toward reclaiming one's intellectual and emotional power. The modern-day cost of sensitivity. In the modern world, the consequences of feeling too much have become more pronounced than ever. The very traits that historically offered insight and foresight now collide with a society engineered for speed, distraction, and emotional uniformity. Those who experience life intensely often find themselves exhausted, misunderstood, and alienated. The sensory, emotional, and cognitive load they carry daily is immense, an invisible weight that society rarely acknowledges, yet one that shapes every interaction, decision, and thought. Overstimulation is a constant reality. The modern environment bombards the sensitive individual with unrelenting stimuli, endless news cycles, social media notifications, workplace demands, and the pervasive hum of digital connectivity. Every emotion, every injustice, Every subtle dishonesty registers with amplified intensity. While others scroll past, they feel the ripple of every event, internalizing the world's chaos as if it were their own. Anxiety, burnout, and chronic stress often follow, leaving them in a state of persistent tension between curiosity and despair, awareness and overwhelm. Social pressures compound the struggle. Cultural narratives label sensitivity as weakness, vulnerability, or impracticality. In professional settings, high sensitivity can be misinterpreted as indecisiveness or fragility. In personal relationships, it can provoke frustration as friends, partners, or colleagues fail to understand the depth of perception that drives emotional responses. Even well-meaning advice to toughen up or stop overthinking fails to grasp the complexity of a mind that operates on multiple layers of awareness. The sensitive person is caught in a paradox. To survive socially, they must suppress their natural perception, yet suppression itself creates inner conflict, fragmentation, and emotional fatigue. This heightened awareness also magnifies the perception of injustice and manipulation in the world. Sensitive individuals are attuned to social, political, and cultural inconsistencies that most ignore. They detect propaganda, duplicity, and exploitation with uncanny precision. Yet this clarity comes at a cost. Witnessing the undercurrents of control and deception can be isolating, creating a sense of alienation from the masses who remain oblivious or indifferent. The world appears both vivid and threatening, full of possibility, yet fraught with invisible dangers. Despite these challenges, sensitivity carries a hidden advantage. It cultivates critical thinking, empathy, and moral awareness. Those who feel too much often develop a sharper perception of social dynamics, a keener ability to read human behavior, and a profound understanding of ethical complexity. The cost is high: emotional exhaustion, social friction, and internal conflict, but the reward is insight. Feeling too much in this sense is a form of intelligence, a lens through which the intricacies of human experience and societal structures are revealed. Ultimately, the modern-day cost of sensitivity is a reflection of a world designed for shallow engagement and emotional conformity. Yet recognizing these pressures reframes the struggle. Those who feel too much are not fragile or flawed. They are awake, acutely aware, and perceptive. Their challenge is not to become less sensitive, but to navigate a society that undervalues depth, to find strategies for managing intensity without surrendering it, and to embrace a perspective that most will never comprehend. Sensitivity is not a liability. It is a hidden form of strength, an unacknowledged power in a world that thrives on mediocrity and distraction. Sensitivity as power. What if everything society has told you about being too sensitive is wrong? What if feeling too much is not a weakness, but a hidden form of power, one that, when understood, can transform the way you navigate the world? Sensitivity is often framed as a liability, but beneath the weight of emotional intensity lies a capacity few can access: the ability to perceive truth, understand nuance, and respond to life with extraordinary insight. Highly sensitive individuals are not merely reactive, they are attuned. They notice subtleties invisible to others, the slightest shift in tone, a fleeting expression, or the unspoken undercurrents in a conversation. They sense the mechanics of manipulation, the quiet structures of control, and the hidden patterns that shape human behavior. What society perceives as overreaction is often a form of heightened awareness, a radar for truth in a world designed to obscure it. Their depth is not a flaw. It is a lens through which the world can be seen in sharp, unfiltered clarity. Creativity and intuition flourish in this space. Sensitivity is a source of imagination, empathy, and strategy. Artists, writers, philosophers, and thinkers across history have leveraged this intensity to create, innovate, and challenge societal norms. Where the average person sees only surface-level phenomena, the sensitive mind perceives layers, motivations, and consequences. This capacity for perception is not passive, it informs action. Those who embrace their sensitivity can anticipate outcomes, navigate complex relationships, and recognize opportunities invisible to others. In essence, sensitivity becomes both a compass and a weapon, a tool to discern truth and a force to shape reality. Yet power does not come without discipline. To transform emotional intensity into influence, the highly sensitive must learn to regulate their responses, channel their energy, and discern which battles are worth engaging. Uncontrolled sensitivity can lead to exhaustion, overwhelm, or emotional spirals. But mastery turns perception into strategy, turning what once felt like a burden into a profound advantage. This is the hidden promise of feeling too much. The world's chaos and contradiction become a map rather than a trap for those who can navigate it. Philosophically, this reframing challenges everything society teaches about strength. Power is not always visible, loud, or aggressive. Sometimes it is subtle, internal, and perceptual, rooted in the ability to see more deeply, feel more acutely, and think more critically. Sensitivity is a form of intellectual and emotional sovereignty, an internal authority that operates independently of social validation. Those who embrace it gain insight that cannot be taught or fabricated. It is an awareness earned through experience, observation, and the courage to exist fully in a world that often fears depth. Ultimately, sensitivity as power is not about domination, but mastery. Mastery over oneself, over perception, and over the forces that seek to dictate thought and behavior. It is the revelation that feeling too much is not a flaw to hide, but a capability to wield. For those who learn to embrace it, sensitivity becomes a form of quiet rebellion, a hidden superpower that allows them to navigate life with unprecedented clarity, empathy, and influence. Reclaiming your depth. The path of heightened sensitivity is not simply about enduring intensity, it is about reclaiming it. To feel too much is not a defect to be corrected, but a faculty to be cultivated. Those who embrace their depth learn that their sensitivity is a guide, a compass pointing toward clarity, self-understanding, and purpose. The journey begins with acknowledgement, recognizing that the inner turbulence, the emotional overflows, and the moments of overwhelm are signs of attunement, not weakness. Reclaiming your depth requires intentionality. It begins with reflection, deliberately turning inward to understand the sources of your emotional intensity. This means observing thought patterns, emotional triggers, and habitual responses without judgment. In doing so, the sensitive individual transforms raw perception into insight. They begin to discern between external noise and meaningful signals, between fleeting reaction and enduring truth. This clarity allows them to act with discernment rather than be swept away by the relentless tide of their own awareness. Solitude and selective engagement become crucial tools. In a world designed to overstimulate and distract, stepping back is not withdrawal, it is strategy. Time alone allows sensitive individuals to process experiences fully fully, to integrate emotions and to reconnect with their own rhythm. Simultaneously, the careful curation of social and professional environments ensures that intensity is not constantly drained by situations that devalue perception. Boundaries, once seen as limitations, become instruments of empowerment, providing the space necessary to channel depth into meaningful action. Reclaiming depth also involves the transformation of suffering into purpose. The heightened perception of injustice, manipulation, and societal contradiction is not a curse. It is a signal, a call to conscious engagement. Those who feel too much are uniquely positioned to influence the world precisely because they perceive it differently. By channeling sensitivity into creativity, critical thought, or ethical action, they convert what was once burdensome into a source of influence and insight. Pain becomes a teacher, intensity becomes a tool, and awareness becomes a quiet form of authority. Philosophically, this reclamation is radical. It challenges the dominant narrative that values conformity over consciousness and detachment over depth. It asserts that living fully means embracing the entirety of perception, including the uncomfortable and the overwhelming. Those who reclaim their depth cultivate resilience, intellectual autonomy, and emotional sophistication. They become capable of perceiving manipulation, understanding power structures, and navigating life with a clarity inaccessible to the numbed majority. Ultimately, reclaiming your depth is about ownership. It is about asserting that your intensity is yours to understand, channel, and wield. It is about transforming a lifetime of feeling too much into a conscious, empowered existence. A life where sensitivity is no longer a liability, but a form of mastery. By embracing depth, sensitive individuals reclaim not only their emotional and cognitive power, but also their place in a world that too often misunderstands, suppresses, and fears the very quality that makes them extraordinary. The secret reason you always feel too much. At last, we arrive at the truth hidden in plain sight. The secret reason you always feel too much. It is not a flaw in your character, nor a mistake of biology. It is a reflection of awareness, a heightened attunement to a world that most are trained to ignore. Society, education, media, and culture have all conspired, sometimes consciously, often unconsciously, to encourage emotional moderation, detachment, and conformity. Those who feel deeply are anomalies, not because they are broken, but because their perception exceeds the boundaries that the world has quietly constructed. Feeling too much is, at its core, a clash between consciousness and structure. Most people are guided by superficial narratives, social norms, and habitual thinking. They absorb information passively, rarely questioning the forces that shape perception and behavior. Highly sensitive individuals, by contrast, cannot help but notice the hidden layers, the contradictions, and the subtle manipulations that underpin daily life. They experience reality as it truly is, complex, chaotic, and often deceptive. What society labels as overreaction is, in truth, clarity, a recognition of the subtle currents others fail to perceive. The consequence of this heightened awareness is often loneliness, frustration, and self-doubt. To live in a world that systematically undervalues perception is to exist in tension with the majority. But this tension is precisely the indicator of insight. Those who feel too much are not weak, they are awake. Their sensitivity is a radar for truth, a faculty for seeing beyond surface appearances, and a signal that consciousness is alive, questioning and resisting the flattening forces of conformity. Across history, those who shared this clarity have been both feared and revered. Visionaries, artists, philosophers, and reformers all carried this intensity. Their sensitivity allowed them to perceive injustice, hypocrisy, and hidden structures of control. Their insights often came at great personal cost, because societies are designed to discourage, dilute, or suppress intensity. Yet the very fact that they endured, and even thrived in some cases, reveals the transformative power of feeling too much when it is understood and directed. The secret, then, is twofold. First, your intensity is a reflection of consciousness tuned to truth. It is evidence of a mind capable of perceiving the patterns and manipulations that govern human behavior. Second, this intensity is a choice in how to navigate the world, how to harness perception, and how to reclaim power over experience. Feeling too much is not a punishment. It is an invitation. It is a call to embrace depth, resist manipulation, and wield awareness as both shield and compass in a world that prefers ignorance over insight. To feel too much is to be awake in a society that often sleeps. It is to carry clarity in a world that rewards distraction, perception, in a society that prizes compliance. And ultimately, it is to recognize that your depth is not a flaw, but a defining strength, a quiet, unacknowledged superpower. Those who embrace it do not merely survive. They see, understand, and navigate life with a precision and consciousness that others can only glimpse.